Yeah, you know what it is. If you've been around guns for a little while, you see a little semicircular cut at the top left is somebody's dominant eye, and you know there's only one way you get that cut. I got scoped, and later in this video I'm going to explain what happened. I've never actually seen that occur. But first, today we're talking about the beautiful old America's gun, the AR-15. So, you know, unless you've been hiding under a rock, about the ATF's pistol brace ban. For those of you who don't know, basically that means if your barrel is shorter than 16 inches, you can't use anything on the back that could be put against your shoulder, or a pistol brace, which is designed to rest against your forearm to stabilize the gun. If you do it, 10 years in prison and a $10,000 fine is what the ATF said, even though probably tens of millions of these were legally sold. They just, suddenly we're going to decide that that's a crime. Hopefully it won't stand up in court, but millions of us are wondering what we do. Well, the ATF gave us 6 options. One more enticing than the other, and they really should have mentioned mass non-compliance as the other option. But option number 2 intrigued me. It says, just switch from a shorter than 16-inch barrel to a 16-inch barrel, and you're good. And so I thought, how could I do that without neutering my AR and just having a bald eagle fly out of my chest? And the answer is, Le 450 Bushmaster. This cartridge is awesome. The coolest thing about 450 Bushmaster is, if you have your standard AR-15, perhaps one that's pistol braced and you're looking what to do with it, all you have to do, you just buy the upper. That's this section right here of an AR is called the upper. This whole section, you can get it with the bolt carrier group, everything already in there. And then it's like 60 seconds, you can make it so you're using that 450 Bushmaster upper. It's like 250 bucks and your AR suddenly becomes 3 times more powerful. And so we're going to investigate it today on Backfire, looking into 5 different questions. How accurate is a $250 upper? Is this overkill for hunting? Where would you possibly use this, and more? Let's get started. But first, today's video is brought to you by Ridge. I used to use one of those big old fatty leather wallets with everything in there, and it would hurt your butt sometimes when you sit down. Then I got much happier when I got one of these phone wallets that keeps your cards here. Problem with this is I move my phone in and out so much that I keep losing cards, and it blocks the wireless charging by having the cards there. And so I'm excited to move into this Ridge wallet. It's a really sleek design. They come in all kinds of different styles. They have carbon fiber, all kinds of stuff. You just open it up and you can hold up to 12 cards plus some cash in there. Has a little quick access thing so you can pull it up. But it's also not their only product. They also have a key case that keeps your keys from rattling and puts them in a slim little design. Right now they're celebrating their 10-year anniversary. You can check it out at ridge.com/backfire, and you can get a really nice savings there. That's ridge.com/backfire. So join me down on the table. This is your normal .223 bullet, right? It's shooting around 3,200 feet per second, very fast. But it's shooting a tiny little bullet. See how cute that is? It's adorable. It's just like 55, maybe 75 grains on a .223. Now behold the 450 Bushmaster. The Sumo has entered the ring. This thing is shooting a 300 grain bullet, but it's doing it about 1,000 feet per second slower. It's shooting at around 2,200 feet per second overall. So you can see the way that this was designed is it takes the exact same length of the brass so that they both fit in an AR, but it's using a freaking huge bullet. And so the 450 Bushmaster is really about putting the maximum amount of power that you could possibly have in the AR platform, the AR-15 platform, I should say. Because there's also the AR-308. If you watched my video a couple weeks ago, I talked about, you know, the 500,000 RPM video where I talked about 8.6 blackout. that's a longer cartridge, and so that's on the AR308 or AR10 platform. It's a bigger, it allows for a bigger cartridge to be shot out of it. I have 5 questions about this cartridge because I heard recently on a Hornady podcast.
There's a product that is almost, I'm going to call it a sleeper, if you will. In the last 9, 8 years, something like that, this cartridge has been in our top 5 of rifle cartridges sold every single year.
That really surprised me. I mean, you expect to see 308 or 6.5 Creedmoor in there, things like that. 30-06, 300 Win Mag, but I didn't expect that 450 Bushmaster was that popular. In the West, it's really not known very much. You know, in Utah, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, there's not a lot of 450 Bushmaster. It's rare that I even see them in stores. But you go to the Midwest, you go to Iowa, you go to Michigan, especially states with straight wall cartridge laws, and they're extremely popular. But you say, well, what about the 45-70? It's 45 caliber. It's even more powerful than this. Why don't they just use that? It's because it's too long for a lot of those states' regulations. All right, let's talk about the elephant in the room. I know you can't watch this video. As I was walking through stores this weekend and stuff, guys would look at me and just kind of smirk. Like, there's only one way you get that cut. There's only one. And so everybody knows exactly what happened. I got scoped. This is actually the first time in my life that I've been like legit scoped and it actually cut myself. It was a series of unfortunate events. So my mistake number 1, I used this stock on there, and for whatever reason, it wasn't compatible with my AR's buffer tube, and so it wasn't clenching on there tightly. I knew it was a little loose, but it felt like it was okay. So what happened is, when I sat down to shoot, it was against my shoulder. 450 Bushmaster isn't crazy recoil. It's similar to 30-06 or 7 mag, so it's fine. And especially in an AR, I mean, you got a big spring soaking up that recoil, and so it really shouldn't be a big deal at all. But again, I made a mistake putting the stock on. It wasn't totally tight, and so what happened is when I shot, it just collapsed to the stock. You know, it telescoped forward and just cranked my head. But I want to play with this thing now that it's working. All right, here we go with the ammo test. Remember, this entire upper, not just the barrel, but the entire upper is 250 bucks. So I'm not expecting much, and the AR platform often struggles with accuracy, but we'll try it. 5-shot group, see what we can do. 100 yards. Okay, let's go see what our group looks like. All right, so I guess as expected, my groups are not real pretty. This is 4 inches here, this circle. By the way, you can get these targets at backfire.tv/target. So you just have it once and you can print it the rest of your life. And has everything all perfectly sized, 1/2 inch or 1/2 MOA, etc. So this is 4 inches. So we're probably talking about a 6-inch group at 100 yards. That's obviously not great. I have heard really good reports from 450 Bushmaster in general. It's interesting, the cartridge started out obviously as an AR thing, but now most 450 Bushmaster rifles are actually sold in bolt guns. And so you can obviously get really good accuracy. Just this Bear Creek Arsenal upper maybe didn't quite do it for me. And I should try other loads. You never know what it'll shoot well. One cool thing is you can get it in some cheap guns. The Ruger American Ranch is available in 450 Bushmaster. So is the CVA Scout, about $399, something like that, a single shot rifle. And speaking of single shot, the Henry one-shot is also available in 450 Bushmaster. So you can get into this cartridge pretty cheap. Next question I have is 450 Bushmaster just overpowered for what it's needed for? Mostly this is used in whitetail hunting, But if you put it in perspective, I mean, shooting a 300 grain bullet at just a little over 2,000 feet per second, that's the same weight class of bullets that a 375 H&H would be used. And I mean, people hunt Cape buffalo and elephant with that a little bit faster, but that's the kind of class of bullet weight that we're dealing with. And so hunting a whitetail with it, I think, what the heck? So is it overkill? We're gonna try a couple interesting things. I have some AR-500 steel out there. I've shot some pretty big cartridges on, and I cannot go through it. Interesting to see if the 450 Bushmaster can, since it is a heavier bullet going slower. Sent it flying. Let's go look. Yeah, so here's the plate. I think that is the impact there. And it really doesn't look anything different than anything else. 450, the Bushmaster can't even stand up to AR-500 steel. Now let's try some milk jugs. Usually milk jugs are like it goes through 2 with pretty much every cartridge I try. So again, heavier, slower bullet. Let's see what it does. America! Wow. Okay, it absolutely shredded 3. Let's see if we can find the bullet. That'd be pretty sweet. Oh, wow. Okay, it exited all 4 milk jugs. That's the first cartridge I've seen do that. Even 300 PRC, I didn't get to exit 4 milk jugs. It's pretty cool. So is the 450 Bushmaster overpowered for a realistic hunting scenario? Well, let's put it in perspective. So your 6.5 Creedmoor, that's the bore diameter is 0.264. This is 0.45. So your 6.5 Creedmoor, when it expands, mushrooms in something that it shoots, it's going to mushroom to 0.396 if it's 1.5 times caliber. That's still smaller than the unexpanded 450 Bushmaster. So it is going to put a thump on absolutely anything you shoot. But because it's not going super fast, I don't think there's that much of a concern of it, you know, a ton of bloodshot meat and losing a ton of meat. From what I've seen so far, generally it's speed that does that really spreads out that damage. The fatter but slower, generally I haven't seen like, you know, tons of crazy bloodshot meat and stuff. Plus it's using pretty tough bullets that stick together usually. So for me, coming from a Western hunting perspective, I guess I'm wondering, like, where would I actually use this? It's a lot more expensive to get 450 Bushmaster ammo compared to 223. And so would I just come out to the range and just blast several boxes of 450 Bushmaster? Probably not. It's going to be an expensive hobby. Would I take it into a whitetail stand? Absolutely. The drop on this thing is pretty substantial. In fact, I kind of keep track on an Excel sheet of 86 now cartridges and for a whole bunch of stats. And if you look at the bullet drop of the 450 Bushmaster, at 400 yards of those 86 cartridges, this would be the 5th worst cartridge of all of them. So it's gonna drop like a rock. You know, you got a 200-yard range is about it before you're dropping just an insane amount. The other place that I would use this is definitely on a plains game hunt in South Africa. 450 Bushmaster would be perfect for that because you could be shooting something pretty small one day and then the next day a 2,000-pound animal. There's just such a variety of game there. I could definitely be interested in a Ruger Ranch 450 Bushmaster for a hunt like that. Look, 450 Bushmaster is incredibly popular. One of the top 5 cartridges from Hornady over the last 10 years. I'm surprised that I haven't played with it more until now. I'm glad to have one. It's cool that you can get into it so inexpensive by just swapping out an upper or going to something like a CVA Scout Ruger American. And so I'm definitely interested. Whitetail hunting, plains game in Africa, this would be just an awesome fit. Anything where you're just shorter than 200 yards, it's gonna absolutely put the thump on it. Thanks for joining me in this video and we'll see you in the next one. First shot didn't go well.